After the birth of my first child, I started having recurring sinus infections. I would end up being on antibiotics for them as often as 5 to 6 times a year. So it was really miserable. And then after the birth of my second child, it continued where I was getting sick constantly with constant sinus infections, which was awful because I couldn't take care of my children. I had trouble going to work as a music therapist. I needed my voice to sing. And I was looking for a long-term solution to not have sinus infections all the time. Usually for me, the hallmark was the facial pain and then being unable to get it to go away. A traditional cold trajectory usually starts, with a sore throat, you get a runny nose, you might have a headache. It's got a very, distinctive pattern. In this case, a lot of times there wouldn't be a lot of symptoms. I might have bad allergies for a couple weeks, and then all of a sudden a few weeks after that, I'd get the really, really intense facial pain, sometimes even extending into my teeth, and that would be, for me, the red flag that it was, in fact, a sinus infection. In February of 2016, I went to see a different ENT local to the area to just get it checked out. I decided I really wanted to be proactive, figure out how to come up with a long-term solution, and that's when I had the first CT scan of my sinuses, and the results were that the passages were exceptionally narrow and in fact almost completely closed on my left side. This particular ENT recommended a full sinus surgery, which is a much more intense surgery than the balloon sinuplasty. I would have to go under, and he would be cutting away bone and cartilage, and the recovery time was going to be much longer than a week, and pretty intense. I felt that even though I was having recurring sinus infections and they were bad enough to warrant treatment, to me that felt like a very extreme option. And I was kind of like, well, I feel if there's a less invasive approach, I'd rather pursue that. So then I came here to Georgetown ENT to get a second opinion. He looked at the CT scans, really thoroughly looked up my nose, which I appreciated. The first doctor I went to never actually looked in my nose, which to me I kind of thought, like, why did I bother coming in if you're not going to look up my nose and really see what's going on up there? So Dr. Franklin was really thorough. He listened not just to my symptoms, but did a lot of looking up my nose, as well as reviewing the CT scans. And he said that'd be a really good candidate for the balloon sinuplasty, and that my passages were closed and did need help, but they didn't need that much help, which aligned with what I felt to be true as well. I went back to the procedure room, and it's kind of gross, but they did stuff to drain my nose out, and they had, the lights down. I did get, I think, a Vicodin before I came in. I was advised to take that, so I was very relaxed. And then Dr. Franklin came in, and the procedure itself, I feel, was relatively short. The whole thing was an hour, but a lot of the time was spent, like they would go in, you actually have 6 sinus openings, so they would go in and numb 2 of them, and then go in farther and numb 2 more of them, and then go in farther. And so really the numbing process took longer than the actual procedure itself. But all told, I was here for an hour for everything. Oh, his staff are wonderful. I love his staff. I wouldn't have come in here to do the video if I wasn't really happy, so. It's been incredible. Unfortunately, this has been an exceptionally bad season for sickness. So since having my sinus surgery, I've had 3 pretty bad colds as well as a case of the flu, which is unpleasant but has nothing to do with the surgery. But the plus side of that is prior to surgery, each one of those would have absolutely met a sinus infection after the fact, and none of them led to a sinus infection, which for me was really remarkable, because even though I had the nasty cold, I didn't have, first of all, the anxiety that I would get before, saying, I know this is about to get 10 times worse, and then I'm going to have a sinus infection. So it was nice not being anxious about that, but it was also nice being able to just fight off the virus and then go back to life as normal. And so that for me was a really key indicator, because when I was healthy now or healthy before, I pretty much am the same, right? You're healthy. But it's those times when I would be struggling with allergies or a virus, not having it turn into a sinus infection, that I could really see that the surgery had worked.